So this is Gabriella Kendall, and before I jump in, I do want to say major trigger warnings. This is someone that is going to describe her situation in a domestic violence relationship. Now, as I mentioned, this is Gabriella, and Gabriella actually testified in the Cult Mom murder trial. She was the first wife of Benjamin, also known as Ryan, where she actually was able to escape. She talks about the fact that they met again when she was 17 years old. They were kind of at a rally where they were both protesting, etc. And she was really young. He was in his 30s. And she said that what attracted her to him was hearing him speak. All of these philosophies just made her feel like he was really intelligent. She also talks about the fact that she met Chloe also because Chloe, again, was his second wife before the other two were added, but she was gone before the other two were added. So this is part one of her testimony. Again, major trigger warning, guys. Thankfully, she was able to get out, but the things that she lived through were absolutely horrific. And sadly, she stated that she's there to testify because she feels really guilty. Chloe reached out to her multiple times and she didn't help her. She said that she just felt like I've already tried to help her a couple of times. She didn't want to escape. So she feels really guilty because she feels that maybe if she would have insisted to get her out of there, this wouldn't have happened.
Your first serious relationship?
He was my first serious relationship.
Okay, so you quickly moved in together, is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, and tell me about what happens pretty quickly within your relationship with how he treated you.
Well, things pretty quickly had gotten like controlling. You know, he would just, kind of alienate me from my family and my friends, and just kind of.
Okay. Did he impose certain rules upon you or things that you had to live by?
You mean like early on, or?
Yeah, I mean about your ability to go out in public or hang out with other people.
Well, I mean, at first we just went out together and there was really no problem, but at a certain point he, if I wanted to go see my friends or my family, he didn't want me to do that.
Okay. Did you have limitations on any of your cell phones, emails, or social media?
Yes, absolutely. I primarily used like Facebook Messenger to talk to like people that I knew, like my friends from high school and stuff. And he would always be controlling the conversation, or whenever I talked to my sister, which is mainly the only person in my family he would let me talk to, he would be right there, the phone would be on speaker, and he would be telling me what to say, basically. Like I couldn't actually have a real conversation with anyone.
Did he go through your phone frequently?
Yeah, absolutely.
Did he take your phone away from you at times?
At times, yeah, when he thought, like when I wasn't like really happy, like being there with him and I might want to leave, he would like take my phone so I wouldn't be able to leave and call anyone or text anyone to come get me.
Okay. And you said he monitored your social media or your emails as well?
Yeah.
At what point did your relationship turn physically abusive?
I would say within the first 6 months.
Okay. What are some of the things that you experienced with him?
Well, he would, hit me. There's this one instance, it was one of the worst, I would say, where I wanted to leave, and he had took duct tape and duct taped my entire torso to where I couldn't really breathe very well, and he had just started like beating my face like really bad, open-handed, not close-handed, but he just open-handed. I was like just seeing the light.
Okay. And there were some other incidents as well, some of that which got reported to law enforcement, is that correct?
Yes, there is a police report about the time where he had me in his basement and he basically told me that he was going to kill me, and he had a machete to my throat, and he just went into detail like how he was going to do it and how he was going to get away with it. No one would ever know, you know, and I was convinced at the time. It was very frightening. And his father came downstairs because he had heard probably me crying or something, and he you know, got involved, and then Benjamin kept his father and his mother and me all hostage and wouldn't let us use the phones to call the police.
Okay. After the machete incident, why didn't you leave?
It was just one of those like back and forth sort of like codependent toxic relationships, and it was really hard to get away because every time I left I felt like empty, like I had no purpose to live, you know. I just like would want to kill myself, and so like he was like my main source of like everything, you know, just like my reason to live. At a certain point I was absolutely completely dependent on him emotionally.
When you would leave, would you all start talking or texting again? And
Yeah, I would leave and I would try to not talk to him, and then at a certain point I would, you know, he would just be incessantly messaging me, usually is how that happened, and I would just text him back. I'd be triggered and I would just text him back, and then he had a way of sucking me right back in.
Okay. Did he proclaim you to be one of his wives before or after the machete incident? Do you recall?
I believe it was after that.
Did he make any kind of demands to you about wanting to have children with you or others?
Yeah, he said the only way that I could be his wife exclusively is if I had a child with him in the next year. He kind of gave me like a time limit for that.
Okay.
It's just
And
weird.
so you ended up getting pregnant with your daughter?
Yeah, I believe within that time frame. Yeah.
Okay. After you got pregnant with your daughter, was he still emotionally or physically abusive with you?
Well, always emotionally abusive. Physically, it kind of dwindled a little bit because, you know, I was pregnant at that point, and there was a few instances where he kind of like, he would like to like suffocate me, and that happened once that I remember while I was pregnant.
Okay. And when you were pregnant, you kind of continued on this nomadic lifestyle, correct?
Yeah, we were just kind of all over the East Coast, just bouncing around from couch to couch. And right before, a few months before I gave birth to my daughter, we stayed at his parents' house and kind of settled in there. And I decided like that I would get I would see a prenatal doctor for, you know, to make sure everything was okay, because he didn't want me to have any prenatal care or give birth in a hospital or anything like that.
Okay, so you kind of tried to take the lead on that
Oh
one.
yeah, at a certain point I started realizing it was like I had a real person that I was about to create, and that they needed that sort of thing.
Okay. During this time, even continuing into your pregnancy, were you still not allowed?
This is part 2 of Gabriella's testimony. If you aren't aware of who Gabriella is, she was part of the Cult Mom murder trial. Now, she was the first wife of Benjamin, Ryan, whatever his name is, and she essentially goes over what she endured while being married to him. Thankfully, she was able to escape. She met him when she was 17. He was in his 30s, and she talks about the reason that she was there in that trial was because she felt very guilty that she didn't do more for Chloe. Before you continue watching this, major trigger warning again, this does have to do with domestic violence.
Did he regularly check your phone or still control who you talked to or communicated with?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Same with social media or email?
Yeah, that never really changed until the end, when I started gaining more like self-confidence and really realizing that I could leave really the relationship.
Okay, and so you had your daughter in August of 2016, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. And where did you go from there? Where did you go stay?
We pretty much immediately left his parents' house and we kind of bounced around for like a little bit, I think like 2 weeks or so, just couch surfing, like friends we knew. And then we ended up at Jerry's house, Jerry Ablin.
Okay, and how long were you at Jerry's house, do you think?
We were there a couple of months, at least 2-3 months.
Okay. And to clarify with you, you were his first wife, technically, correct?
Mm-hmm.
But you are somebody different that left Mr. Ablin's house at a different time. You only know about that through other parties, correct?
I only know about what through the...
Someone else leaving Mr. Ablin's house in a different way. We're not talking, correct?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So let's talk about your overall relationship. You're still living this kind of nomadic lifestyle. You had your daughter. Was he allowing you to take your daughter places or get any type of early care?
I believe we went to the doctor once after she was born because DCF had gotten involved immediately at the hospital because his mother was there and told them like he was crazy. And so they immediately got involved, and we went to a doctor's appointment because we had to for the DCF case. And then we just left and sort of abandoned the case. And
what was the first time you went to leave Mr. Ben Michael? What was the precipitating incident that finally, at least for that first time, got you away from him?
You mean after I had my daughter?
Yes.
Okay. Because before that, I tried to leave many times and did leave and would, go back and forth. But let's see. I guess the straw that broke the camel's back would be when I was staying at Jerry's house with him, and my sister came down for a visit, and he was trying to rope her into the whole polyamory thing. And it's one thing for, it just crossed the line for me with my sister to have her have to deal with that sort of thing,
Was that the first time that your sister kind of got an inside look into the life that you had been leading with him?
No, she knew very well. Like when I would leave him at certain points, I told her everything that happened,
But ultimately you would be drawn right back to him, kind of based on the bond that you had with him?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Have you ever, and this is a personal question, have you ever been diagnosed with any mental health issues or anything like that? Okay. And when this incident with your sister, and he, I guess, invited your sister to be part of your group, how did you manage to get away from him on that particular occasion?
Well, yeah, my sister was there, so she had a car, and she was very, emotionally supportive of me leaving him, and so, I just told him we were leaving. At that point I felt like I could, and I said, we're leaving. I'm leaving with my sister, and just left.
Okay, but yet prior to that, you didn't have a car or anything else on your own?
Yeah, no. Prior to that, it was just like me and him, or we'd be at Jerry's house, so he would be there. But there was no leaving. There was no going anywhere, like unless I just took my daughter and walked away, and then that would be pretty difficult.
Okay, so you left with your sister and your daughter that particular time. How long were you away from him at that point?
I think I stayed away from him for about a month or so, and I moved into a farm in Florida, and I tried to establish some roots for myself and become financially stable and not have to rely on him. And then he's just threatening me with taking my daughter away and stuff like that, getting the courts involved. He said, "Oh, when we're done with you, you're going to be left drooling in a mental institution," stuff like that. And it scared me. I was like, I don't know what could happen. If he paid someone enough money, a good lawyer or whatever, I don't know what he could convince someone of, because he's very convincing. But yeah, so what was the original question?
So how did you end up going back to him with your daughter after that?
So yeah, we had been talking, and I didn't want to burden the people whose farm I was staying at. I didn't want to burden them with this crazy person, so I just left, and we stayed in Florida, in Tampa, and we lived in a tent, just like homeless, with pretty much nothing.
Okay. What drew you back to him at that point in time?
If you've been following me, then you are aware that I have been covering the cult mom murder trial. This is Gabriella's final testimony. If you aren't aware of who Gabriella is, she was one of the cult wives. In fact, the first one that he had, and she escaped. She was able to get away from him. But she does testify about the relationship and everything she endured. She was practically a prisoner. I'm going to go ahead and play the final part. Before I move forward, I do want to say major trigger warning. And if you want to watch the previous videos I have posted, they are in a series, as well as the entire trial. Again, major trigger warning.
Maybe it'd be okay if, he saw her, and, maybe it'll be okay. I don't know.
When you were apart from him, how would you describe how you felt inside, or what kind of feelings did you experience when you were not around him?
Well, for a really long time, I would just feel empty, like I had absolutely no reason to continue on, and he always made me he tried to make me think that about myself, that I was nothing without him, and he was the entire purpose for my existence, basically.
And at times you were feeling suicidal?
Oh, absolutely. There are many times.
Okay. And so you are living with your daughter and him in a tent in Florida. How old was your daughter at that time?
She was about 6 months old.
Okay. And kind of what was the next, I guess, red flag or thing that happened with you in that regard?
Well, just after years of nothing ever really changing, and I was always struggling so badly, and we were just, living in this tent. We had nothing. We were beggars, and we had hardly anything to eat at really any point. My daughter was exclusively breastfeeding, so she was getting what she needed, but I could barely get by. It was just draining it out of me, and there's only so long, someone can do that for before they become malnourished. So I just reached out to my dad, and I said, please just come get me. I need to get out of this situation. This is it wasn't really rock bottom, because there have been worse points, but that was a really low point.
Okay. Did he, during this time that you got back together with him, did he make threats about your daughter if you had left again, or what he would do?
Well, yeah, the last time that I actually ever saw him and that he saw our daughter, I was with Chloe, and we were on a trip going to Asheville, and it was over the course of 3 days, and he had made threats that he would take my daughter and just disappear with her, and I would never see her again. And that just scared me so bad. I was like, oh, that's never gonna happen. That's never gonna happen. I'm not gonna let that happen. So after that, I vowed to never see him again, and that's how it's been so far.
Okay. And you currently have a case pending in the state of Tennessee with Mr. Ben Michael, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And because you've remarried, correct?
Yes.
All right. And your current husband is trying to adopt your daughter, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Is that your motivation for being here today, or trying to help Ms. Driver at all?
No. Actually, when I told my lawyer about this to make sure it was okay that I came here and there was no conflict of interest or anything like that, I said, oh, would you like to speak to her lawyer to just get a better idea of, who this guy is that we're dealing with? And he said, no, that there's, no reason. We have all we need for our court case, because it's just simply based on his abandonment of his daughter. So there's really Well, and the fact that I feel guilty, you know, because Chloe tried to reach out to me a few times, and I just, I mean, I spoke with her and kind of told her how my relationship with Benjamin went, but I just felt like I wasn't getting through to her, and that she would just kind of have to learn on her own, and I feel really guilty about like not trying to help her more.
Okay. So, you have not seen or heard or talked to Benjamin since when?
All right, guys, we have a verdict in the Cult Mom murder trial. Let's go.
This form.
Yes, it is.
All right, if you could give the verdict form to the bailiff, I will inspect it before I ask you to publish it. You'll give that back to the foreman. Mr. Foreman, if you will stand, Mr. Ivor and counsel, if you will stand, if you will read the jury's verdict, please.
For each count below, we, the jury, find the defendant, count 1, malice murder, guilty beyond a reasonable doubt of mentally ill. Count 2, felony murder, aggravated assault, guilty beyond a reasonable doubt, but mentally ill. Count 3, felony murder, cruelty to children in the first degree, guilty beyond a reasonable doubt, but mentally ill. Count 4, aggravated assault, guilty beyond a reasonable doubt, but mentally ill. Count 5, cruelty to children in the first degree, guilty beyond a reasonable doubt, but mentally ill. So found this 20th day of November, 2024.
So she was found guilty on all counts, but mentally ill. What does that mean? That means that when she is sentenced, she will serve her sentencing in a mental health facility until she's cured. But according to her diagnosis, that's something that's never going to go away. And she will be on medication for life. So we don't have a sentencing date as of yet. Usually, when someone is found guilty, they do have to do what is called an investigation, just pretty much on their reputation, just to talk about kind of their history, have victim impact statements, as well as statements for those on their behalf. So I am going to post, because this happened relatively quickly, I am going to post the jail calls next so that you can hear the calls between her and her mom. I don't know how that helped the prosecution, because in any case, it just looked like she went from one controlling home to another. But I will keep you guys posted. And for those of you that found me through this trial, thank you so much for following. I will keep you updated on any other cases. Talk to you soon.